everyone. Today we're going to be talking all about bond builders, how they work, when to use them, and how they affect the hair. Val, we hear all the time about bond builders. It's always being discussed amongst different hairdressers. I use this bond builder, I use this one. It does these great things to the hair. Tell us more about them and how they affect the hair.
Well, bond builders are a very new category for the salon industry. It really started in 2014 with the entry of Olaplex onto the market, and so many brands have followed suit. The name bond builder is an accurate name, but also a bit of a misnomer because most people think that bond builders are rebuilding disulfide bonds in the hair. But as we discussed in episode 3, there are 3 types of bonds in the hair: disulfide bonds, electrostatic bonds like salt bonds, and hydrogen bonds. And this is how bond builders work to strengthen the hair fiber.
Because we talked about bonds so in depth in episode 3, let's recap those a little bit. You mentioned disulfide bonds. We know that disulfide bonds are broken down through the use of chemical products in the hair, mostly color, perms, relaxers. We have salt bonds, which you call them
Electrostatic.
That's a fancy name, but as hairdressers, we know as salt bonds. And then we also know hydrogen bonds. So with salt and hydrogen, do those get broken down as well when using bond builders, or is it mostly focused on the disulfide portion?
Well, the disulfide bonds are the biggest part of the conversation that we have because those are the strongest bonds in hair. And when they're broken, they're broken. Salt bonds and hydrogen bonds are also interrupted in the hair coloring service. But what's great about that is the bond breaking is temporary and they reform once the hair is dry again.
I know with common marketing, when it comes to different bond builders, it's discussed that the disulfide bond is reformed. I've always learned in my time as a hairdresser that that's not something that does happen. Once it's separate, it never comes back. What does this all mean when we talk about disulfide bonds reforming? Does that happen?
It's really chemically impossible to happen on the hair that the disulfide bonds, which become separated, can come back the way they were formed before. It's just not possible through any additive in the hair. But bonds are being reformed, just not the disulfide bonds. So those hydrogen bonds and electrostatic bonds are being associated together again. With the disulfide bond, it is possible to put something added to the sulfur atom, but they don't become a disulfide bond. Again, it's not 2 sulfur groups joining back together. It's just something is in its place. So imagine this as a whole keratin fiber, and we have the 3 different types of bonds in the hair. So the magenta pipe cleaners representing our hydrogen bonds, the blue pipe cleaners representing electrostatic or salt bonds, and then we have our famous Everstrong disulfide bonds represented in orange, which we have as a double bond right there.
What are we expecting to happen when we are working with disulfide?
So in any reactive product or service, we're breaking these bonds, and they break different ways based on whether they're covalent, ionic, or just attractive bonds to each other. So when a bond breaks, it actually is going to break down the center. And when a hydrogen bond breaks or an electrostatic bond breaks, it doesn't get actually broken, it just kind of dissociates, but they're still there. So the disulfide bond here is broken. Can that be rejoined together?
No.
Exactly. We have these free sulfurs that can interact with other molecules, like maybe the bond builder, maybe they can just have a hydrogen on it, it turns into cysteic acid, but it's actually broken. It can't be joined back together in the same way that it was. Whereas our hydrogen bonds and our electrostatic bonds can be rejoined. Hair is dry, my process is done, they're going to rejoin, and the hair is restored again.
It sounds to me where really what's happening with the bond builder in that service when the hair is getting broken down through that chemical service, whether it's lightening or permanent hair color, it's actually becoming just strengthened, or it's almost like a bridge is being built or something is helping to support it rather than rebuilding it.
Yeah, I think these active molecules in the bond builder pieces that are being added to the lightener or color, they are going into the hair fiber. We do know that something is happening with a lot of bond builders. They may recommend, increase your developer because processing will be slowed down a little bit. So you know something reactive is going on. Is it rebuilding a disulfide bridge? No, but it is building new bridges within the hair to strengthen the hair fiber.
So the hair will feel good. It's just a matter of not necessarily exact what it's maybe rebuilding those
bond
disulfides.
builders work. I just don't think they work in the way people think they work, which is rebuilding disulfide bonds, but other bonds are being rebuilt.
That makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about developer. A lot of times we know with certain types of bond builders, you need to up your developer choice. For example, if I'm used to using a 20 volume without my additive, I now need to go up to a 30 volume. What is the reason behind that?
Well, the hair lightening process and hair coloring process is reactive. Usually when you put a shampoo on your hair, you don't want a reaction to occur. With hair color and lighteners, you do. And by putting this bond building additive in, you're adding something to the reaction. And you have hydrogen peroxide and ammonia, maybe persulfates if you're using lightener, going into the hair fiber. And they're looking for melanin to degrade the natural pigment in the hair. And you also have the bond building additive going in, and they're competing for sites within the hair to react and bind. And that's why you get this slowing down of pigment breaking down in the hair fiber, because they're competing in there.
When we've talked about in previous episodes hydrogen peroxide and how it works within the hair, is it potentially damaging to up your developer, or does the bond builder within that formula help kind of offset any additional damage that hydrogen peroxide brings?
That's an excellent question. I think many stylists, when they see these bond builders on the market, they think, oh, I can do whatever I want because I have this safety net, I have this protective bond builder in the formula. And even the directions on many of these bond builders on the market do say you can increase your processing time or you can up your developer. And to me, as a chemist, that negates what you're trying to do, which is protect the hair. When you add more hydrogen peroxide developer to the hair, you're increasing the propensity for damage. Hydrogen peroxide is not a smart molecule. It's efficient. It does its job really well. It's been working since 1862 when it was discovered for hair lightening, but it's not super intelligent. It doesn't go in the hair and say, I only want to deplete melanin and then I'm gonna stop working. It literally will eat anything in the hair fiber that it can. It will interact with the proteins in the hair to start breaking them down, which means breaking those disulfide bonds. So even though you have this bond builder in there, you shouldn't go willy-nilly and throw 40 volume in. I always recommend using as low a developer as possible to protect the integrity of the hair fiber for your guest.
So things that we need to consider as hairdressers: we don't have a safety net with bond builders. We still need to assess the situation, use our professional knowledge and our consultation and understanding exactly what's sitting in front of us through the existing canvas, and making sure that we are still taking precautions instead of just going for it and hoping that the bond builder or the additive is going to create this net for us. So that's really great information. I think that's one thing as hairdressers, we're looking almost for that magic potion to help us along, but we are the ones that make products smart. We need to remember that.
Yeah, the bond builder is not for you to do your job faster or more aggressively. It's for the guest. It's for the health of the guest's hair.
I love that. So we get a lot of questions. What about our company, Paul Mitchell? Are we going to come out with anything in bond building to help the hair along a little?
I'm not allowed to say.
So it's a mystery. Stay tuned for more, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, we'll see what comes in the future.
Okay, so Val, thank you so much for all the information. I think this is really going to help hairdressers around the world. I know I'm going to be more proficient in bond builders and exactly what happens to the hair. Comment below for any feedback or questions that you may have. The comments that you offer definitely are going to help shape future episodes that Val and I have. We hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.